Today on the CTV News at 5.
We need our kids to succeed in school.
How blood reserve parents are taking a stand for their children. Plus, how Crow's Nest Pass residents are getting some up-close experience with bears to help protect them. And the results are in on the study of Lethbridge's downtown parking needs.
CTV News with Jackie Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. Prime Minister Stephen Harper called it a sad chapter in Canadian history. 4 years ago today, he issued a public apology to former students of Indian residential schools, admitting that the policy of assimilation was wrong and it caused great harm. Today, members of the Blood Reserve marked that anniversary by holding a 16-kilometer walk, and they say the apology was a good first step, but the progress has been too slow since. Terry Boat reports.
These members of the Blood Tribe are among more than 5,300 people from across Canada who are taking part in a national event to raise awareness about inequities in funding for First Nations children, especially when it comes to health, education, and family services.
We feel it's especially important because of the number of Aboriginal children in care. They represent 67 to 68% of the child protection population, and we feel that more resources are needed to give toward the Aboriginal children in First Nation communities.
This walk comes 4 years after Prime Minister Stephen Harper issued an apology to former students of Indian residential schools, an apology he referred to when visiting the Blood Tribe last summer.
I know that the Blood Tribe was deeply affected by that system, and I'm glad to hear that the government's apology was so well received among you. But as you know, the work of healing and reconciliation continues, and we must also continue our work together to improve the quality of life of Canada's First Nations.
So I haven't really seen a huge change. I think that Harper got the better of the deal. I think that he got a headdress and we pretty much got nothing.
We need our kids to succeed in school.
That's not happening now. On the Blood Reserve, only 1 in 4 children graduate from high school. There are 3 times as many First Nation kids in the child welfare system than there were at the height of the residential schools. But despite those statistics, First Nations receive less per capita funding for education, health, and child welfare. These walkers say they're trying to raise awareness about the need for equality so that First Nations children can grow up healthy, educated, and safe in their own homes.
And reconciliation to Kainai Children's Services is every child matters.
Terry Vote, CTV News, on the Blood Reserve.
Organizers of the walk are encouraging youth, families, schools, and organizations to write, email, or send an email to their MP and the Prime Minister supporting culturally based equity for First Nations children. A new trial date has been set for a man charged with attempted murder. 20-year-old Hector Morales faces 2 counts of attempted murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault, 1 count of assault with a weapon, along with several drug-related charges. Now, most of those charges stem from a drive-by shooting in the city in April of 2010. Morales has pleaded not guilty. He was originally supposed to stand trial next week, but he's hired a new lawyer. The new trial is scheduled for 3 weeks starting June 3rd, 2013. Let's check in with Dory for our first look at the forecast. And we've got temperatures going from above average to 6 degrees below average this next week.
Yeah, but you know, in the big scheme of things, we here in Lethbridge don't have a lot to complain out. The folks in Gimli, Manitoba woke up to snow today, and there's more on the way tomorrow thanks to a cold front and a low pressure center that moved up from the Dakotas. So, you know, it's always worse somewhere else. I'll have all our details coming up in a couple of minutes.
Hopefully it doesn't involve snow. Thanks, Dory. Well, despite the wet weather that happened over the weekend, river levels continue to drop and all stream flow advisories have ended. High stream flow advisories have been lifted for the Oldman River Basin, South Saskatchewan River Basin, as well as flood warnings for East and West Kootenay, as well as the Columbia region. And the company says it's still not sure why the pipeline ruptured in central Alberta, but they do believe that most of the oil is contained and cleanup is underway. Oil officials don't know how many animals will die or have died as a result. They couldn't put a timeline on how long it will take to clean up the river north of Red Deer. A spokesperson for Alberta Environment says it's hard to tell what the long-term effects will be. A company spokesperson says they will take care of landowners, but they would not talk about financial compensation. Well, if you live in places like the Crow's Nest Pass, you expect to see deer, sheep, or other wildlife. But a high number of bear sightings has some residents concerned. Fish and wildlife officers are turning community members into conservationists by giving them up-close experiences with bears. Our crew joined the group to prepare a black bear for release. Alicia Fieldberg reports.
A blow dart to the leg and the male black bear in this trap is down. Fish and wildlife officers sedated the bear so they can prepare him for a monitoring program. Members of the community Bear Smart team also get in on the action.
Bears are kind of, your charismatic large mammals, so it's an opportunity that not many people get, and it's quite energizing to do that.
Most of the time, these volunteers don't actually see a bear. They're running tracking programs and promoting conservation. Officers make sure they also get the chance to directly help a bear a couple of times a year. They say actually seeing one up close and feeling it changes their perspective.
They were knocking on the doors and doing the Bear Smart message, but I got them involved in actually the processing of the bears, so they've taken ownership of it. And as a volunteer, they work harder because it's their bear.
Though he isn't given a name because he's not a pet, volunteers make a connection with bear number 4. He's weighed, measured, gets a quick health check and an ear tag and transmitter. Bear Smart members record the information so they can monitor him once he's released back into the wild. This 200-pound male is considered a good bear. Fish and Wildlife say he hasn't gotten into trouble yet. He's now part of the aversion program, which will help him stay alive and learn to cohabitate with humans.
You can track him if he shows up and he's in that wrong spot, the red zone that he shouldn't be. That's where we'll do the aversion and scare him away and consistently deal with him so he learns the lesson.
Keep your eyes open.
Members of the Bear Smart team patrol areas around town every week to track transmitters and make sure bears aren't getting too close to town. They say the excitement of an up-close encounter ironically motivates them to preserve a relationship with bears at a safe distance.
It's just an interest in protecting the bears and protecting the safety of the residents in the pass.
Animals have a right to be here too, and we have to work with living with them.
Alicia Fieldberg, CTV News, Crow's Nest Pass.
Now, Bear Smart volunteers spend most of their time educating people about keeping things that attract bears out of their yards. They say food, garbage, and bird feed only sends bears the message that people have tasty treats for them. Stay tuned tomorrow for part 2 of the story where Bear 4 is released. A horse was euthanized during chuck wagon races at the Medicine Hat Stampede grounds over the weekend. The Stampede says veterinarians attended to horses involved during a mishap during the 8th heat of a race on Saturday, and one of the horses owned by driver Doug Irvin suffered a broken leg. Officials say there was no evidence of a collision and the track was in excellent condition at the time. Now, poor weather on Sunday postponed the final chuck wagon races. The Dash for Cash will run tonight now at 7 o'clock. Lethbridge's parking needs in the downtown core are being met. That's according to the final report for the Public Realm and Transportation Study. The report suggests there is sufficient on and off-street parking, with demand reaching roughly 60% of capacity on average. Experts say volume for traffic is expected to grow by 3% per year. And assuming the figures are accurate, the city shouldn't require a new parking structure in the area for at least the next 2 decades. An open house to discuss parking in the downtown core will be held June 18th from 3 until 6 o'clock at the Chamber office to hear your concerns. It was a long but very worthwhile night for cancer survivors and supporters at Saturday night's Relay for Life. The total amount of donations is down from a year ago, but the spirits were high inside the main pavilion at Exhibition Park. Nearly $271,000 was raised locally, with donations still coming in slowly, and that's down from $284,000 a year ago. CTV's Daryl Rummold served as MC for part of the night, and Moon Dancer performed, which features our very own Dory roster. Nearly 60 teams signed up to participate in this, the 10th annual Relay for Life.
every one of them have something very, very important happen to them or to one of their family members or to one of their friends. So it's very important for us to try and raise funds to beat this.
And there still is time to donate by visiting the Canadian Cancer Society's website at cancer.ca. Thousands of people showed up to rock the block this weekend. The third annual Rock the Block is a fundraiser for the Lethbridge Senior Citizens Organization. The event is held at the Civic Centre, and this year 7 local bands entertain the crowd. The LSCO says it's a major fundraiser for them.
We hold this event to promote wellness and incorporate ourselves into the community, with it being a fundraiser and a fun community event. You can hear the bands throughout the blocks, and it's just amazing. The community involvement is just awesome.
Organizers are still counting the proceeds, but they're hoping to have raised around $50,000. It was an out-of-this-world experience in Vulcan this weekend for the 20th annual Spock Days. All kinds of galactic beings, including Spock himself, were celebrated at the 3-day event. Hundreds of fans of the Star Trek TV series and movies attend the festival each year, and this time it was bigger than ever. Instead of 1 or 2 celebrity guests, this year fans got the chance to meet 6 Star Trek actors. Organizers and visitors agreed the small town setting is the most stellar part of the festival.
That's one of the things that makes Vulcan really a golden opportunity for fans. It's up close, it's personal. There's a real authenticity to the time that you get to spend with the guest, and you get to know who they are.
It's a great time. It's a real festival party atmosphere rather than a lot of conventions where it's very busy. It's more of a family-oriented, and that's really super. I really enjoy it.
Organizers say that next year's festival will celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Deep Space Nine Star Trek series, and celebrity guests will include actors from that show. On the markets today, uncertainty on the world markets meant a lot of down arrows on our markets. Here are the financial numbers.